It was supposed to be democratic and European, but this is not the first time Prime Minister Tusk has changed his mind. At yesterday's press conference, he openly admitted that he had broken the law for an imaginary good and added that he intends to break it in the future. What do the legal authorities have to say about this? Nothing. This time they are loudly silent. At a press conference dedicated to the supposed restoration of the rule of law in Poland, the Prime Minister openly admitted that his action was unlawful. We have a need today to operate in a combative democracy. We will probably make mistakes more than once or commit acts that, according to some legal authorities, will be, I'm not going to guess, or not quite in accordance with the provisions of the law. Furthermore, he argues that without breaking the law, the activities of his government would be meaningless. I have to make decisions every day that can be very easily criticised and challenged from the legal side. But without these decisions, it would be pointless for me to take the decisions to run the government at all. And on top of that, the leader of the coalition of the 13th of December announced that he would continue to act in an unlawful manner. I will take such decisions in full knowledge of the risk that not all of them will meet the criteria of the full rule of law. Such words, in a normal reality, would involve the resignation of the Prime Minister. However, the smiling Poland camp pretends that nothing has happened. Not only that, Justice Minister Adam Bodnar is doing everything to justify his master. In fact, we are coming out of an order which was, it is said, illiberal, non-democratic, in which various legal institutions were, as is popularly said, concreted over. The Speaker of the Sejm, Szymon Hołownia, goes even further. The leader of Poland 2050, who built his political capital through the rhetoric of agreement and dialogue, today announces to go to the barricades together with Donald Tusk. I understand that this is a declaration of a strong, hard political fight. I will support the Prime Minister very strongly, and Mr. Prime Minister and I seem to fall into the category sometimes referred to in politics as fighters. And on top of that, he also announces a boycott of the Constitutional Court. We will not be sending a parliamentary representative to the tribunal. Civic Coalition members are taking water in their mouths and do not want to comment on the Prime Minister's words. Why will you break the law? I think you are the one breaking the law. And Jelonek continues to question him and he runs away.
Donald Tusk powiedział, że będziecie podejmować działania, które nie będą zgodne z literą prawa w ocenie wielu autorytetów prawniczych. Dokładnie co powiedział premier. No ale to jest bardzo poważna rzecz, panie pośle.
I didn't hear. Jelonek quotes Tusk's words to him. Szczerba runs away and closes the door.
Miało być praworządnie?
Different from coalition left politician Marek Balt, who openly criticizes Donald Tusk for his authoritarian inclinations. The state in which the law is made by the one in power and not by the Polish parliament is not a democratic state. When the authorities change, the next ones will come and invoke the actions of their predecessors. Breaking the law for the unspecified greater good is reminiscent of the darkest pages of history. This is a reminiscence of Stalinism and those elements of it which were on the one hand terribly threatening, but on the other hand also funny in their own way. It is a strange thing that in the end a trained historian doesn't know this and does this kind of thing well, but some are questioning his mental state at the moment, let's say. The latest manifestation of Donald Tusk breaking the law is the attempt to withdraw the counter-signature. Even lawyers traditionally associated with the ruling team are not leaving a dry eye on this action. Also pushed to the wall, Speaker Hołownia distances himself from the Prime Minister's decision. I find this decision by the Prime Minister controversial. I say this quite openly. And about the unlawful venture itself, the Prime Minister decided to notify through social media. Any action on the X portal in the form of an attempt to cancel this counter-signature is simply legally completely ineffective. As the Prime Minister himself declared, the process of breaking the law is only gaining momentum and it is unclear when it will end. Voices of indignation from the European Commission and other important bodies are so far absent. Following the violent attack by South American migrants on Polish youths in the town of Shrem, groups of young, strong men gathered in the streets and organised so-called citizens' patrols. The aim, they say, is to ensure the safety of Poles who are increasingly and brutally harassed by foreigners. 5 South American migrants beat up 2 young Poles on the city's beach. In a related development, Germany is admitting that its migration policy was a mistake and is introducing controls at all its borders. Donald Tusk has also changed his mind on illegal migration, announcing consultations on Germany's decision at the European level. Citizens patrolling Kornik near Poznan. This is how Poles react to the impotence of the state in the face of increasingly aggressive behaviour by foreigners. We are the ones who should defend the rest of our compatriots, girls, women, old people, children, because they do not hold back. They even attacked 3- and 4-year-olds, ran after a teenage girl with a bottle. One of them ran and shouted that he would rape whoever he wanted. Well, it can't be like this in our country. This is also a reaction to the beating of 2 Poles by 5 foreigners in Schengen. The injured were taken to hospital. One of the attackers will be charged with attempted murder, while the other 4 are already back on the streets. A preventative measure in the form of police surveillance and a ban on leaving the country was applied to them. Yesterday, citizen patrols were organised in Kornik and Schrem. Today they will walk the streets of Środa Wielkopolska and Zanimish. These people are worried about their safety. If the state is unable to provide this security, then it is hardly surprising. Where the state fails, citizens must take matters into their own hands. Aggressive migrants are already a daily reality on the streets of Western cities. Even Germany, which 10 years ago imposed an open-bordered policy on the European Union, is now sealing its borders, including those with Poland. Germany is changing its mind about illegal immigrants, and so is Donald Tusk. Only 3 years ago he argued, "These are poor souls searching for their place on earth." Today, he extended the buffer zone along the border with Belarus and announced his opposition to the current migration policy of the European Union. Also on this issue, pressure from Poland and other countries, pressure, as friendly as it may need to be, will cause a correction in thinking about this common policy towards the dangers of illegal immigration. What would this friendly pressure look like? That remains unknown. What is known, however, is that since Tusk's coalition took power in Poland on the 13th of December, the Germans have resettled up to 10,000 illegal immigrants in Poland. It's not that here the Polish state is worried about retaliation or harsh answers. It won't be like that. If something like that comes up, I assume it will be agreed with the German side what kind of screening there will be, to maintain a semblance of symmetry. Before the elections, Donald Tusk attacked Law and Justice, which had warned Europe for a decade about mass illegal immigration. He also threatened that if Law and Justice won the elections, it would bring illegal immigrants to Poland, take Poland out of the European Union, and Poles would not be able to cross borders freely. Konrad Wąż, TV Republika.
Germany will unilaterally introduce border controls officially aimed at stopping the movement of migrants and expelling those who have lost their right to stay in the Federal Republic. However, this is a violation of Schengen rules and has caused controversy in neighboring countries. Austria has announced that it will not accept migrants apprehended at the border with Germany. For more on this topic, see Kamil Szaska. The German government's decision to reintroduce border controls took everyone by surprise. The CDU, the main opposition party, broke off talks with Scholz, arguing that the Chancellor's measures were insufficient. This will have repercussions, no doubt about it. Those who have their national borders at the external borders of Europe will also have to return to the principles we agreed on in the Dublin regulations. Scholz was furious after the talks collapsed, insisting the government was doing everything it could to end the crisis. All I can say is that the breakdown of these talks was planned in advance, and this is a disgrace on the part of those responsible. This isn't leadership. Character, honesty, and decisiveness are what this country needs, not such cheap tricks and provincial acting. To make matters worse, Scholz's decisions are also opposed by his neighbors. Austria has already announced that any migrants apprehended at the border with Germany will be deported to their first country of residence within the European Union, and not to Austria, as the latter has no external border. I am not surprised by these measures, but I have also said very clearly that we will not accept anyone who has been denied legal entry. We have been very clear on this issue, and so far as Austria is concerned, this is not negotiable. This could mean not so much a suspension, but the collapse of the Schengen zone altogether. Each country will have to guard all its borders, lest it be faced with migrants sent back by its neighbors. Austria, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia are already considering introducing such controls. But we can see that this line of the German government is very clear. We are taking care of ourselves, and anything else is not our problem. At the same time, Berlin continues to put pressure on countries that do not want to accept illegal migrants under the so-called relocation system. The introduction of border controls is supposed to be another mechanism that will allow Germany to direct migrants to neighboring countries based on the declarations of its own services. Kamil Szaska, Republika. It was probably the first time in history that the name of Poland appeared in a debate between US presidential candidates. On Tuesday evening, there was a direct clash between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. The debate was dominated by talk of the economy and security. Our correspondent, Tomasz Grzywaczewski, is on location. In the analyses of last night's debate, the prevailing opinion is that Donald Trump missed the chance to effectively expose Kamala Harris's shortcomings. At the same time, the Democratic candidate performed well above expectations, but once again failed to offer concrete proposals for her campaign platform. As a result, commentators are wondering whether tonight's debate will change the outcome of the election and, more importantly, whether there will be another debate. This was the first face-to-face meeting and the first debate between the two candidates. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump faced off in Philadelphia, where many voters have not yet decided who they will vote for. The number one issue, the economy. The Republican was quick to diagnose the problem that the Democrats are not dealing with.
Terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history.
The Democratic candidate, as Vice President of the United States, is responsible for the state of the economy, which keeps millions of American families awake at night. And yet, as is her habit, she talks about the economy in broad generalities.
I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
Right now, Americans' opportunities are limited by illegal immigration, which Trump says is tearing the country apart. What does Kamala Harris think about that?
The people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand.
But it was the Republican who announced mass deportations of illegal immigrants and improved security. He also called for the immediate closure of the border.
Get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal.
This is exactly the kind of decisive action Americans expect, because illegal immigrants are draining the economy and endangering native-born Americans.
His leadership was excellent. He did everything that the American people need to know, and that what we've seen as the American people. And I'm looking forward to this election coming up. It's wonderful. I am voting for Donald Trump.
Donald Trump criticized the Biden-Harris administration, which the Republicans said has done little to stop Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and too little to end the suffering of innocent people, the real victims of war.
That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later.
So I think you've heard
In response, the Democratic candidate tried to pit Polish Americans, who mostly vote Republican, against Trump.
Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Most importantly, most U.S. voters don't know what Kamala Harris's platform is. She remains an enigma to American voters. During the debate, organized by the Democrat-sympathetic ABC network, the issue that comes up at every Kamala Harris rally could not be overlooked. The issue of abortion divides Americans, but according to the Democrat, the issue is clear.
The majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of
It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
Kamala Harris supporters put abortion and women's rights first.
The most ridiculous things that I heard out of Donald Trump's mouth were around babies being executed at 9 months.
Billions of dollars, and so were other countries.
During the debate, Donald Trump said what he says at rallies and what he wants to implement as president. Kamala Harris avoided clear answers and explicit statements. She did better than Joe Biden, but according to all the commentators, both overseas and here in Brussels, the debate as a whole was won by Donald Trump. Ultimately, the winner will be declared by the Americans on November 5th. Marcin Szewczak, Republika. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump both attended a September 11th memorial event in New York today. A day after squaring off in their first presidential debate, the two nominees shook hands in a show of unity. The event at the 9/11 memorial marked the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attack, during which commercial airliners crashed into the New York World Trade Center Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and, after passengers mounted a counterattack, a Pennsylvania field. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, including more than 2,600 at the World Trade Center, 189 at the Pentagon, and 265 on the 4 planes.